All right, so to continue with this photograph editing, we are going to move on and we're going to worry about step 4 for this one, which is we're going to take care of these rocks. Most notably this upper right corner, it's a little bit red. So what we want to do to start with is make sure that we highlight the background layer. So we're going to click on that. You should see it highlighted. And then from there, we're going to go down here to the fill adjustment layers. And we're going to go click on that. And we're going to go to curves. So we should see a graph look something like this. And we should, because the fill adjustment layers come with the layer mask. So we should see a white layer mask, but we want to go ahead and make that all black. The easy way that we can do that is just hit Control-I. That way it inverts that layer mask. And what we want to do, we can push this graph inward by hitting the double arrow on that. So these double arrows push it in. And we want to make sure that we have the brush tool selected. We were going to go ahead and go with a size 50. So I'm going to hit the right bracket till it goes to 50. You can also click on this little drop down menu, change the size right there. We want to make sure that we have white on top. So if white's not on top, hit X so that it is. And then we are going to paint in this area. Now nothing's going to happen. We want to make sure that the opacity of our brush is also 100%. Nothing's going to happen, but we can see right here in our layer mask that there is the little area that we painted. Now we're going to double click on that symbol right to the left of that, so this graph pops back out. And then we want to make sure that we're going to change this RGB to the red channel, because that's where our issue lies mostly and is in the reds. And we want to, so you can see right here it scrolls down, which is important because I'm going to give you numbers for the input and output, but we can't get those numbers yet until you click on anywhere on that line and start to drag it down. But you can see right here that now I can change these numbers. So if I click on the input and I change that to 180, and then I can hit tab, and then that'll take me to the output, and I put that to 160, and then hit enter. Now we see that it takes care of that red just a little bit subtle, but we want it to be, we still want it to look fairly realistic. So now if we click on this layer mask right over here, we can see the little white border around it. So that's how we know that we're selected on the layer mask. We're going to grab that brush, still with size 50. I would say hardness is 0. And the opacity now, we're going to change that to 35%. So we're going to subtly adjust the rest of this. And what we're going to do is we're going to paint over the mountainous areas. And we're going to not try and get into the water or the sky. And I'll go ahead and stop, and we'll see that right there it starts to show up. What you're going to do is just kind of paint, and what we're doing is we're adding that little bit of that edit that we put up here to the rest of the mountains. Now in the tutorial, he only goes in this top right corner. I personally think it looks a little bit better for the contrast to add it to all of the mountains. So we can see just kind of like a crude silhouette, or reverse silhouette of our mountain range. Now what we're going to do is we're going to double click on curves 1. So on the text part, that way we can rename it. We can go ahead and rename this Red Rock. And then we're going to hit Control J. We're going to make a copy of that. So we should see a Red Rock copy. And what we're going to do is it should already automatically be highlighted on the layer mask. We're going to hit the trash can and we're going to delete that layer mask. And then it should do kind of a little weird looking color on the rest of it. And then we're going to add a layer mask and we're going to go ahead and hit Control I to invert that. Should bring it back to where we had it. Now we're still with white on top. And the size of this brush, we're going to go ahead and put at 35. And we're going to go ahead and put the opacity back to 100. Now with this, we're just going to go a little bit more defined. I would recommend just the shadows. We're just kind of up the contrast in that area. Should almost look a little bit green. Kind of where you see those shadows. And we're going to adjust the opacity of this layer. So it's a little bit more subtle. But we can see right over here that we kind of a little bit more spaghetti stringed versus the one right below it. So kind of once we have that, we see that we've kind of upped the shadow contrast for that. And what we're going to do, so we can see right there, kind of makes it pop a little bit more. We're going to go ahead and change this opacity of this layer to 75%. That way it's a little bit more subtle, but yet it's still a little bit darker in those areas. He also changes the background copy to 75%. I kind of like where it's at. That's up to you. And we will move on to step 6 and 7.